Hey friends. So one thing I often hear in coaching sessions is, I struggle with procrastination. There are so many things that I want to do, but when it comes time to do them, I'd much rather, and then insert more desirable activity here. Now I'm guessing you're here because you're struggling with the same challenge. You're having a hard time reaching your goals. And depending on the goal, you've made varying degrees of progress, but for the most part, you're pretty much in the same place. And I'm guessing you're starting to feel a bit frustrated, maybe wondering if you're being lazy, you don't have enough discipline, and maybe just feeling defeated. Now, a lot of times when we get to this point, we start justifying a reason why we don't need the goal after all, basically giving ourselves permission to simply give up. But guess what? There's a very good reason we have a hard time reaching many of our personal goals. We're human. Now, over time, our brains have evolved into some amazing thinking machines. But the problem is we still have the old part of our brain that's focused on survival. Well, psychologist Jonathan Haidt came up with a fantastic metaphor for how we function. It's an elephant and its rider. This very simple concept really helped me understand what's really going on in my brain when I have this same struggle. That it's not about a lack of discipline or focus, and that I'm not lazy. So this is what I want to share with you today. Let's first talk about the rider. Now, your rider represents the new part of your brain. Its role is to think critically, plan and strategize, and set direction. Now, this of course requires some time and focus and control and energy. Now, the downside is that the rider tends to get paralyzed from overthinking and overanalyzing and over-controlling, which is exhausting. So think about it this way. Let's say you want to lose weight or save money or finish a project or, I don't know, make a decision. You know you can do it and you know you'll benefit. So you spend the time and the energy and focus to think through and maybe even build a solid plan that seems absolutely doable. And yet, you just can't get started. So this is when you realize you're trying to control an elephant. Now, the elephant represents the old part of your brain. I mean, we're talking like 200 million years old. Its main purpose is to ensure survival by instinctually operating on immediate emotions and automatic behavior. Now, this is great if all you're doing is hunting for food or finding shelter or escaping from bears or trying to protect the pack. I'm guessing you're doing a bit more than that these days. But the elephant is a challenge because it will choose fight, flight, or freeze over any discomfort. It acts without thinking, and it wants immediate gratification. Now, most of these goals that we're trying to reach often involve planning and change and sacrifice in time, and of course, waiting for long-term results. Now, lastly, there's a path in this metaphor. That journey from point A, which is our current state, to point B, which is that end result, the goal that we're going after. Now, the path involves everything that can impact the effort along the journey. So that's the plan, the environment, our resources, our behaviors. So now we've got some conflict happening in our brain. Your elephant is uncomfortable. It's stressing out, it's panicking, it's freaking out, and it won't budge. It's huge, heavy, and powerful. And your rider is trying to guide the elephant, and then it's trying to push the elephant, but the elephant's emotions override any logic and reason. So in the end, your rider gets tired and gives up because it just can't control the elephant. Now here's the thing, we need both of these roles. We need the positive emotions that motivate us and the negative emotions that protect us. We need critical thinking and sound decision making. So that means we've got to find a way for the rider and the elephant to work together. So here's a 3-part strategy based on Chip and Dan Heath's book, Switch. So part 1, we've got to direct the rider. So the first step is to follow the bright spots. Because our rider is really good at thinking and strategizing, we can easily get stuck overanalyzing and never making any progress. So this might show up as feeling overwhelmed or frustrated because you don't know how to get started, or researching a bunch of solutions and finding fault with each option. So instead of analyzing a million different ways to attack the situation, think back to what has already worked or where you've already succeeded and do that again. Number 2, script the critical moves. So similarly, when we have too many options, we can experience decision paralysis. We don't have clarity on any specific option, so we just get stuck. Our rider needs clarity. So don't try to boil the ocean. Start with specific, critical, meaningful actions, and then identify and define the steps to take that action. So not only does this provide clarity, but it reduces overwhelm. And then number 3, point to the destination. Now, often when we're trying to make changes, we're doing it because we've been told we should by media, society, our doctors, our friends and family. But if we don't have our own reason for the change, we begin to resist at the first sign of discomfort. There's just not enough intrinsic motivation to push through. It feels much better to stay in our comfort zone. But your rider needs a clear destination with a reason for going through the mountains to get there. Change is easier when you know where you're going and why it's worth it. As Simon Sinek says, what's your why? Part 2, motivate the elephant. So the first thing is find the feeling. Knowing your why gives the rider motivation, but your elephant has to feel the why. So take some time to feel the emotions of accomplishing that goal. How will you feel when you receive your test results saying you've lowered your blood pressure and can stop taking medication? Step into that feeling of signing the papers and receiving the keys to the house you spent the last year sacrificing and saving for. That's the emotion that will get you through those hard and challenging times. And number 2, shrink the change. How many of us, when we start a new exercise routine or diet or a savings plan or whatever, we say, okay, starting tomorrow, I'm going to start doing this, or I'm going to stop doing this, or I'm going to wake up at whatever time every day. Well, that's too much at once. Don't try to go from 0 to 100 on the first try, especially if you're starting from scratch. Start with smaller incremental steps, shorter milestones, and go for small wins. For instance, this week I'm going to start by waking up 30 minutes earlier. And next week, I'll get up 30 minutes earlier and I'll go to the gym. And then the following week, I'll add in a specific workout. And then number 3, put on a new identity. One of my favorite tips from James Clear's Atomic Habits is about taking on the identity of who or what it is you want to become. So rather than saying, I want to eat healthier, you can actually shift your mindset by saying, I want to become someone who eats healthy. And then taking that on as an identity, not just a goal to reach. When we set goals and then we reach them, we never tend to be satisfied. There's always someone who's doing more, or we still feel like we're falling short. So step into that identity. And then part 3, shape the path. So the first thing is tweak the environment. The path plays a huge factor in our ability to reach our goals. Even when our rider and our elephant can't seem to work in sync, our environment can provide the support we need to get through. So set yourself up for success by making it as easy as possible. Remove the barriers. That's why you always hear experts say to put your exercise gear out the night before, or your gym bag by the door, or healthy food in your fridge, alerts on your bank account. Number 2, build habits. Implement good habits that work for you. And don't boil the ocean here either. In Tiny Habits, BJ Fogg talks about mastering one small change, and then build on that change by making it a keystone habit. And then identify and define cues you can attach the habits to in order to make them automatic. And then number 3, rally the herd. Surround yourself with a support system, people who've already done it, people doing it with you, and people who simply are your cheering section. Share your wins and talk about your journey so that you can motivate others. So the next time you get frustrated with yourself and feel like giving up on your goals, remember, you're not the problem. You're human and you're powerful. Your rider and elephant both have roles, and real change comes once you know how they can work together. Remember, the goal hasn't changed, but now you have a new strategy for reaching it.